Ghost stories, we've all heard them, right? Maybe you've even told a few. But in India, these stories are way more than just something to give you the chills. They're literally woven into the landscape itself. So in this explainer, we're not going to try to prove if ghosts are real. Nope. Instead, we're going to dig into why these stories exist, why they stick around for so long, and what they can tell us about a place's history, its memory, and yeah, fear itself. So let's just jump right in with the big question. What actually gives a place its ghosts? I mean, is it really a lingering spirit, or could it be something else? We're going to see that it's usually this wild mix of real history, real tragedy, and that very human need we all have to explain things that just don't make sense. The ghost is just where the story begins.
To really get a feel for just how big this is, let's start with a super quick tour of some of India's most famously haunted spots. We're talking everything from abandoned forts to lonely stretches of road. These stories are absolutely everywhere.
First up, the one, the only, Bangar Fort. The legend here is that the entire place was completely destroyed by a sorcerer's curse. And get this, the story is so powerful that even today the official Archaeological Survey of India has a rule. Nobody is allowed inside after the sun goes down. Or how about the Delhi Cantonment Road? For decades, drivers have told this really chilling story about a woman in a white sari who tries to flag them down for a lift. The legend says if you drive past without stopping, she chases you, keeping up with your car at an impossible speed. A restless spirit from some long-ago accident. And then you have Dumas Beach. What makes this place so creepy? Well, it used to be a Hindu burial ground. The local story is that its black sand is actually mixed with the ashes of the dead. And those whispers you supposedly hear on the wind? Yeah, that's said to be the restless souls of everyone who was cremated right there on the shore. So what's fascinating is that these stories aren't just random. You start to see a pattern, right? They almost always come from things like curses and black magic, sudden tragic deaths, old historical violence, or just local folklore that tries to explain why a place feels so unsettling. Every haunting has a backstory. All right, so to really see how one of these legends gets off the ground and takes on a life of its own, let's zoom in on a single notorious location, the Bagunkodar railway station in West Bengal. This is a perfect case study in how a story is born. This timeline basically says it all. The station gets built in 1960. Just 7 years later, a station master sees something terrifying and then turns up dead. And that's it. The station is declared haunted and completely abandoned for 42 years. Just think about that. One single story was so powerful, it literally wiped a working railway station off the map for over 4 decades. So, according to the local accounts, this is how it all went down. On a chilly night back in '67, the station master makes this frantic call over the wireless. He says he sees a woman in white standing right on the tracks. And then, just static. Silence. The next morning, his coworkers found him dead. Now, the official report might have said it was a heart attack or an accident, but the locals, oh, they knew better. To them, it was clearly the work of the woman in white, the ghost of someone who had been tragically killed by a train right on that spot. But, like with any great ghost story, there's the legend, and then there are the other explanations. So what was really going on at Bagunkodar?
And this is where the story splits in two. On one side, you've got the terrifying legend of a deadly spirit. But on the other, the skeptics have their own theories. Was the whole thing just invented by railway workers who didn't want to be sent to such a remote post? Or maybe the locals kept the story alive to drum up a little ghost tourism? The real answer is probably somewhere in the middle, where fear and rumors just fed each other for years.
Of course, the way we tell these stories has completely changed. That lonely railway station, it's got a new, even more accessible haunted neighbor, the internet. Let's take a look at how the classic ghost story has had to adapt for the digital age. The modern horror story, whether it's on TikTok or a podcast, it has a very specific formula. You have to hook them in the first 3 seconds. The pacing has to be super tight. Every single word counts. And then you have to hit them with a shocking twist at the end that just sticks in their brain. It's not just about telling a story. It's about creating an unforgettable, unsettling experience. Okay, so keeping that formula in mind, let's dive into a modern ghost story. This one's from a Hindi horror podcast. And you won't believe it, it takes place at another haunted railway track, this time on a new moon night. So the narrator is in a house near the tracks when he's woken up by this sound. It's not just one person crying. It sounds like a whole crowd of people, all wailing in grief, and the noise is just cutting right through the darkness. So naturally, he goes to check it out. As he gets closer, he sees them. There's a group of people by the railway bridge, and they're all bathed in this eerie white light. And they're all weeping over something on the ground, but from where he's standing, he can't quite see what it is. And this is the twist. He pushes his way through the crowd to finally see what they're all mourning, and he sees himself. He realizes in that moment that these are the ghosts of others who died on these tracks, and they're mourning their newest member, him. He's already dead. He's a ghost. Wow. So we've gone from an abandoned train station that was closed for 42 years to a modern podcast ghost story. What's the thread connecting these? Why do these stories have such an incredible grip on our imagination? Well, here's one of the biggest reasons, and it's actually pretty deep. In places where maybe there aren't a lot of written records, especially in more rural areas, these stories are the history. They become the main way that the memory of a person or a tragic event is kept alive. I mean, ghost stories do so much more than just give us a scare, right? They're cautionary tales, don't speed on that road. They help explain awful tragedies. They give a voice back to people who've been forgotten. And they give a weird new purpose to places that have been abandoned and left behind. So I think this is the most crucial point. A place isn't just haunted by a ghost, it's haunted by an event. That woman in white at Bagonkodar, she's not just a ghost. She's the living memory of a violent death that happened on those tracks. The story itself is the real phantom, making sure we never forget what happened there. And that kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on. When you feel that chill run down your spine at a place like Bangar Fort or Dumas Beach, are you really sensing a spirit? Or are you sensing the incredible weight of the story that place has to tell? Because maybe, just maybe, the story is the most powerful ghost of all.